Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again from Film Fanatic headquarters. It is Monday, technically the first day of fall. So summer is behind us. Summer of 2025. It's official. So yeah, I hope everyone had a great weekend. Had a really fun weekend. This was my had a birthday weekend, so it was super fun. I got to play a gig on my birthday and went out to dinner afterwards down in Portland, and it was a blast. It was a really great time. Last year I played a gig on my birthday too, and it was not. It was kind of a last minute thing, and it ended up working out pretty well. But it was super fun. The weather was great. Got to play a gig at pretty much my favorite venue around, and that's Primo. Just an amazing restaurant. So I got to play with some friends there, and it was a great day. So in the meantime, I want to thank all the folks who have been still continuing to comment on a lot of these videos here on Film Fanatic, and I really love the support and all the love. Got quite a few new subscribers that have come on board in the last couple weeks or so, and it's been great. So really appreciate the love, and also coming up this week, there's going to be we're doing our first quantum show, and also an Osmia show at Blue on Thursday, this coming Thursday. Blue, which is a really great venue down in Portland, Maine. It used to be years ago. It used to be primarily a jazz club, but there's been a few different owners. It's still like known as like the kind of the I guess for Portland kind of the premier jazz club. They still have a lot of jazz, but they have expanded their the genres that they have there. They have all kinds of music there, and they've had a lot of rock bands and indie rock bands there, and just all kinds of different kinds of music. But it's still known as a jazz club, but really great venue. I've gotten a chance over the last couple of years to play there a lot. So yeah, this Thursday coming up at 7 o'clock in Blue in Portland, we're going to be playing. It's a show I put together in the beginning of the summer, and it's going to be Osmia and Quantum, and then the Button Men. So I'm pretty excited. Osmia is the newer band I've been playing with since December. Well, December now of last year, and that's been a blast. We did a big tour this year, and then we did another mini tour recently, and we've been playing a lot of shows, and that's been a super blast. One of the things I've been most proud of this year in 2025. And then Quantum has been, I feel like we've had a really good year this this winter and this past summer. We usually play a lot of gigs during the summer, and we usually try to keep the band really active, and we had quite a few gigs this year and a lot of fun. And we have we're going to be playing. It's going to be the order of the sets. It's going to be Osmia first, and then Quantum, and then the Button Men. And then the Button Men also is another great electronic group from Portland that we've played quite a few shows with too, and I've had them come down here to the Mid Coast to play at Hey Sailor. We've played about three shows together there, and then we've played a couple other things together too. But super fun, like real cool dark wave, synth wave kind of music. So it'll be interesting. It'll be our first time playing at Blue, and we haven't really played down in Portland all that much. We did a few years ago. We played in Portland a couple of times. We had played at the Flask Lounge once, which was a long time ago now, and then we played at this art gallery in Portland once, and I think that's the only time. And I think we played at this music festival down there once too. So we played there maybe three times total. But this will be our first time playing at Blue, which is I think a really cool venue. So we'll see how things go. And if you're down in the Portland area, come on by and say hey and all that good stuff. In the meantime, I've been, of course, watching movies. I didn't get to see. Went to the movies on Friday, but since then and today's Monday, I haven't went a couple of days without seeing any movies because I was busy running around and stuff. So, but Friday night we went to go see the new film called The Long Walk, which just it was an extraordinary movie. probably the best movie I've seen this year of 2025. The most I was really taken aback by this movie, and I just um, did a show on this movie Saturday. I think it was Saturday morning. I did a show of it, and I'm almost done with getting the video posted for my full review and the experience of going to see it. And I've been on this Stephen King kick lately. The Long Walk was, which I've realized was the first story published by Stephen King in the '60s, which is pretty wild. I didn't know anything about this movie going into it. I went into it very cold. And then I also did a show, which I think is, yeah, I've had that show posted for a couple of days, but I did a show of where I rewatched and reviewed Brian De Palma's Carrie, with starring Sissy Spacek from 1976. What an amazing movie that is, and I forgot how just fantastic that movie is. I'm a huge Brian De Palma fan, and I realized I didn't. I've had the Blu-ray. I got this really beautiful Blu-ray edition of Carrie a year or two ago, and I realized I don't think I might have watched it once, and I don't think I had done a show on reviewing the movie for Film Fanatic. Um, Amazing. So I just uploaded that. That's been up for a couple of days, and then The Long Walk is coming. Is going to be up probably this morning before this afternoon. And then I also watched another Stephen King movie, directed by the great, one of my favorite horror directors of all time, and that's the one and only John Carpenter. And I recently just watched Christine, and this movie is another one that just totally stands up. It came out in 1983. It stars John Stockwell, Alexander Paul, and also Harry Dean Stanton, which I forgot. I'm a huge Harry Dean Stanton fan. I forgot he was in this movie. And it was directed by John Carpenter, the one and only, the iconic, one of the most iconic directors, one of my favorite directors of all time in the world of horror. And this came out in 1983, and I have this DVD copy, which is actually really good. It would be awesome to upgrade this on Blu-ray, because this movie, I think it's one of the best Carpenter movies. I mean, John Carpenter. I mean, so many great films. I mean, of course, Halloween. Um, Probably my favorite John Carpenter movie is The Thing, which is a masterpiece. That movie has, what else can you talk? What else can you say about that movie? The Fog is also another one that I just really, really love. Um, Assault on Assault on Precinct 13 is just amazing. So many great films to his credit. In the Mouth of Madness is another one I just think is just fantastic. Just such an iconic director. They Live, another one, which is a movie that they're showing, I think they just showed at Waldorf After Dark, which I was not able to go. Just so many great classics. He was, a primetime director in the '70s and '80s, of course, and he has still, continued his career, into the '90s, and movies like Ghosts of Mars and things like that aren't the greatest movies, and of course, Escape from New York, amazing film, which I'm not sure if I did a show on that or not, but there's a few movies in the Mouth of Madness, and I think a couple other ones that I need to talk about, and do shows on, because John Carpenter. I mean, what can you say? But Christine, I had not seen this movie in a really, really long time. And again, this is a DVD copy, but it's a really good transfer. It's a really good version of it. There are some special features on here, like there's some commentary tracks. But I think that this would be a great film to definitely get an upgrade. And of course, this is based on a classic Stephen King story, Christine. I'm trying to think, the Stephen King stories, books that I've read. Um, the first Stephen King story I ever read, and it was when I was a little kid. was Pet Cemetery. I remember reading that as a little kid, and that story scared the shit out of me. And I that might be it's a toss up. It's a close tie. But I kind of feel like, as far as Stephen King adaptations, I think Pet Cemetery's, probably the best one, if not the, or close to being the best. I really love also the Shining, my my favorite Stanley Kubrick film. Stanley Kubrick's also my favorite director of all time. And of course, the notorious story with how Kubrick systematically kind of gutted the book and reworked it quite a bit, but I think made it into a superior story. So I don't know. It's like a cross between Pet Cemetery and The Shining, being the two best. But probably The Shining only because I love Kubrick so much. Uh, and then, but as far as reading Stephen King, I remember reading Pet Cemetery being the first, and then I read uh, It, which of course is another fantastic adaptation. The original is also still really really great with Tim Curry, and the more recent remake. The sequel is terrible, but the remake is just fantastic, truly terrifying, really great story, a truly terrifying story. Um, and but my favorite Stephen King story is The Eyes of the Dragon, which is not a story, I don't think that's ever been adapted. And it's a really different kind of a story for his or a very different kind of genre for Stephen King. I mean, he's primarily known obviously as a horror director, a horror writer, but he's also done melodramas. I mean, you have the classics like The Green Mile and Shawshank Redemption, Stand by Me. I mean, he's made some really great, amazing dramas that are just fantastic. But um, Eyes of the Dragon is probably my favorite, and it's really one of the few stories that he did where he's like dealing with, he's kind of really in the fantasy realm, and it's such a fantastic story. It's I kind of feel it's very similar to like a Tolkien, very very fantasy driven. It has like a medieval kind of quality. There's dragons and all kinds of epic battle scenes, and just an amazing story, amazing book. And there's been other films like great adaptations. I mean, obviously Christine I think is just incredible, which is today's movie. Also, um, the It films, like I mentioned, Pet Cemetery being the greatest. And I also feel one of my other all time favorites is The Dead Zone, starring Christopher Walken, and that was directed by the great and amazing David Cronenberg. But getting back to Christine, this movie I've seen a whole shit ton of times. Like it's been a few years since I actually watched it, and I realized the other day, I realized I never did a show on this movie, and definitely needs to, because I think this is, John Carpenter is really well respected, of course, and he just recently got his Hollywood star, in Hollywood, and so, and again, he's made so many great classics, and Halloween, the original, is probably his most well known and probably the most influential. But it's interesting because in the Halloween franchise, when it comes to the Halloween universe, there's so many movies in the franchise, but the later three films, the last one that were directed, the last three films that came out that were directed by David Allen Green, which I'm not a big fan of. I have a lot of issues with those films, but I really actually love Halloween Ends. I think that movie is really great because I think he, as a director, he kind of hinted at trying to shake things up, try to do something new. I think it needed to the genre, the character of Michael Myers, the whole world, the mythology around Michael Myers. I think things needed to be kind of shaken up a little bit to give it a fresh thing. And he tried doing that in the other movies, but I felt like it ultimately was not successful. But I think he did that with the third one, Halloween Ends, and I really like that movie. And it's very funny because, or ironic, because I think it followed the same trajectory as Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which is one of my favorite horror exploitation movies of all time. I love that movie to death, and it's so bonkers crazy. It's so different. Michael Myers isn't even in that movie, and that movie was hated when it came out, but then it's gone on. Now it's regarded as this, classic, and rightfully so. And I kind of feel like Halloween Ends is following that same trajectory because of the same path. Basically, when that film came out, when Halloween Ends came out, which was the last kind of movie in the franchise, and I'm sure there'll be more. It's been a couple of years, but that movie was hated and lambasted and just destroyed by critics, and it made no. It was a commercial flop. But since then, and it's been a couple of years, people have come back to that, and I've been surprised by a lot of critics that have like said it's actually really good, and it's kind of people are coming back to it, and I think people are waking up to that film, and realizing, wow, like that's actually a pretty cool movie. It's original, and I love that movie, and I'm kind of still the lone sheep saying that, out there, because most people hate that movie. But the thing that's really interesting is that I remember seeing an interview with David Allen Green about the making of Halloween Ends, and he said that obviously John Carpenter being a huge influence, but I remember him specifically noting that Christine was a major influence for him for Halloween Ends, particularly around some of the lead characters. He's actually the lead character. Cunningham is actually named after the lead in this as the lead character in Christine. And there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of parallels. You can see the influence, and I thought that's really really cool. Like, and it's really interesting. Like, I almost feel like Christine had a bigger influence on Halloween Ends than any of the other films that he's done, including the obvious Halloween movies. But I love this movie. I think that this movie isn't quite talked about enough. It's a fantastic movie. I think it still holds up. It's classic fucking 80s, 1983. And uh, it's just fantastic. And I think that, again, this is like part of that low budget kind of horror exploitation world, like the 80s, 70s being my favorite decade, but the 80s also being one of my favorite decades. And again, it's just a prime time example of, movies like this that they don't really make anymore. And I just think that this movie is so awesome. It's a great story. When you think too of the practical effects in this movie, particularly around the car, Christine, fabulous, and the kills are really awesome, and the level of suspense is really awesome. The cinematography is it's fantastic, and it's so well conceived. And you think, when you think that this was done long before computers and blue screen and of course CGI, it still looks really great. And it's dated, but dated in all the right ways. I feel like this movie has aged so well. So I definitely feel like I need to get it on Blu-ray, but it's one of the best. I think it's one of the best John Carpenter movies, and I also think it's one of the best adaptations of one of King's great stories, especially in obviously the horror genre. But awesome movie, and it's been a long, long time since I've seen this, and I definitely want to get. I definitely think that this deserves to get an upgrade on Blu-ray because it's been out for a super long time. I forgot how old this film is, from '83. So, you know, Halloween came out in '79, so it's only a few years after. But fantastic '80s movie, and I also feel like it's kind of a slasher movie, especially around Christine. Even though it's not the car is the killer, obviously Christine, but killer movie. Harry Dean Stanton was in this, and I'm a huge Harry Dean Stanton fan, and I forgot that he was in this, and he plays this detective who is investigating the murders. But such an awesome movie. Can't recommend it enough, and I'm sure most people have seen it, but definitely revisit this movie because it's one of the best Carpenter movies, and it's one of my favorites, and I think it's one of the best, again, big screen adaptations to one of Stephen King's, one of his best books in the world of horror. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.